Good morning. I'm Heather McLean. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a member of your board of directors. Welcome to White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. We are a community of youth, adults, and children of many diverse theologies, held together by covenant, not creed. Together we share the values of courage, reverence, and compassion. May you know deep welcome and belonging in this place. We encourage that welcome by asking everyone to wear a name tag, and after the service to say hello to someone that you've never met today. To share requests for today's meditation, please place it in the chat box before the opening hymn or add it to our meditation bowl. Please gain consent before you use someone's full name. The meditation bowl is in the Soulwork Center right over there, along with some activities to help people of all ages engage with today's service. Welcome, visitors. We are so glad that you're here. If you're interested in learning more about our church community, please consider attending our Membership 1 class. That's next Sunday from 12:30 to 2. Snacks and childcare will be provided. Whether or not you're interested or ready to become an official member of the church, this two-part series answers a lot of questions about our church, our faith, our history, and ways to get engaged and involved. And in the meantime, we also have a brief 12-minute intro and tour happening immediately after the service today. Please come toward the fabric wall right here in the sanctuary immediately after the service, and you'll find someone holding a sign and ready to greet you and give you a tour. Welcome, visitors. We hope you will join us at the membership class next Sunday and the tour happening today. We are very glad that you're here. This Wednesday, you're invited to join us for supper and game night. Wednesday the 17th, we'll be hosting our WBUUC version of a Moth radio hour. Come prepared to tell a 5-minute story about how love shows up in your life. All are welcome. We're trying to bring back our Dining for Dollars event in 2024, and we need some of you to step forward to make this happen. If you'd like to explore being on the Dining for Dollars organizing committee or to learn more, please take a couple of minutes after the service to stop by a table in the social hall and talk with members from the Financial Development Committee. And lastly, as we move into this new year, our hearts continue to break over what is happening in Gaza and Israel. So many lives lost, so much heartbreak and trauma. We will be holding a vigil this Thursday, January 11th at 6:30 p.m. in our sanctuary as a time of lament and comfort. All are welcome as we sit together in our complicated grief and heartbreak. Childcare will be provided. So ends our announcements. Welcome to our church. Together we grow our souls and serve the world in love.
Come in. Come into this place which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this place. Together we make it a holy place. I'm Reverend Jessica, and my pronouns are she, her.
I'm Tim Nelson, he, him. As part of today's service, where we remember intentionally those who have died this year, I'd like to invite us to think about attaching meaning as a way of navigating grief. When I worked as a hospice chaplain, I met a couple in their later years. He was dying, and she was trying to imagine her life without him. One day I overheard a very intimate conversation between them where they talked about where she might find him after he's gone. And then they spoke about a particular bench in a very specific park that they both knew well. I'll meet you there, he told her. Did he actually show up? I can't know, nor is knowing important. What's important is the meaning that was attached to that location, to that particular spot. My hunch is that as she visited that park and bench in the midst of his absence, that she would feel something of his presence. Some years ago, my spouse Margot and I hired a contractor to renovate our home. He was in his early 30s and just full of life, one of those people who made you happy to be in their presence. It was a 4-month project with all the chaos that comes with it. What caught our attention early on was a single feather that was lying in the driveway. It was a large feather, and it stayed there all 4 months through all the foot traffic, the cement work, the dumpsters, the snow, and the rain. And as soon as the project was completed, the feather was gone. About a year later, we received word that our young contractor had died. A sudden, unexpected, accidental, tragic death. I was asked to preside at his memorial service, where we celebrated his brief and vibrant life. A couple days after the service, we noticed something on the driveway. It was a single large feather in the very same spot that had been all throughout our entire renovation. Do I believe that that was some kind of message from beyond? How can I know? But I do know this, that because of the meaning that was attached, now 16 years later, every single time that I see a feather lying on the ground, I think of him and the large life that he lived. Now, it's important to acknowledge that not all our memories are comforting. Some of the meaning that we attach to places or songs or things can remind us of pain that we've experienced, and that can't be trivialized or ignored. And so I offer also today an invitation to be gentle, perhaps to attach meaning in other ways to help us navigate things that are painful, in the process creating new memories or attachments that help us move beyond and find peace. Kenneth Collier said it well in his reading entitled, "What I Know." I do not know where we go when we die. I do not know what the soul is, or when, or why. What I know is that the song once sung cannot be unsung. The life once lived cannot be unlived. And the love once loved cannot be unloved. The meaning we attach. I light the chalice today as an invitation to pay attention to where we might attach meaning and in the process be opened to a mystery that unfolds as we remember.
I'm Reverend Jack, and my pronouns are he, him. Please join me in the opening words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our opening hymn is Abide With Me, number 101 in the gray hardcover hymnal. Please rise and embody your spirit.
So I want to begin our story today by inviting anyone who is young or young at heart to come down and sit in the front with me. Would anyone like to come down and sit in the front? It's okay if you want to stay in your pews too. Yay, friends. So exciting when you see each other. Okay, so I'm going to need everyone's help today. And if people still want to come on down and join us, that's fine. Our story today is The Invisible String by Patrice Karst. Do you know that story? Okay, do any of you know that story? No, okay. Hi, welcome. This is related to the story I told way back in September, The Invisible Web. So this is the story before that story. It's a beautiful storybook too, I recommend it. But to begin our story first, we're going to need to create a thunderstorm. Exactly, so can we stomp our feet? Everybody stomp your feet. And can you put your hands on your lap, tap your hands on your lap, and maybe brush your hands together. And what does wind sound like? And can you flick your fingers like rain? And what's thunder sound like? More stomping. There we go. So our story is one night there was a thunderstorm. Have you all ever heard thunderstorms? Yeah, because we live in the Midwest. They are a big thing here. California, not so much. Here, my first season of thunderstorms, I was like, what is happening? Is the house coming down? So there was a thunderstorm, and these kids were afraid. So they went and they woke up their grown-ups because they were afraid. Have you ever done that in a thunderstorm? They're kind of loud, or maybe with lightning and things like that. And so they went and woke up their grown-ups, this being one of their grown-ups being their mom, and their mom told them about an invisible string, that everybody has an invisible string. And for these kids, their invisible string was connected to their mom no matter what. So for you all, it's connected to your grown-ups no matter what. And so she said, when you're at school and you miss me, you can just tug on the string and know that I'm there. And she said, and when I miss you, I'll tug on it too. And they wondered, how far does this invisible string go? Does it go to space? Do you think it went to space? Yeah, it goes all the way up to space. What about to a ballet dancer in France? Yes. What about to if someone's exploring the jungle? Yeah, still goes that far. And then they said, can it reach Uncle Brian in heaven? And she said, even there. And then they wondered the deep philosophical question of, does the string go away when you're mad at us, Mom? And what do you think she said? No. It's always there because love is stronger than anger. As long as love is in your heart, the string will be there. So they went back to bed in the midst of the thunderstorm. Come on, we can make a thunderstorm louder. And let's do our fingers. Hear the sound of the rain. They went back to bed thinking about all the people their strings were connected to their friends, and their friends' strings connecting them to their friends, and that everyone in the world is connected by invisible strings. And from deep inside, they knew that they were not alone. So today, I invite you, as you go to your spiritual growth classes, to think about who your strings are connected to. Oh yeah, a couple of them pointed at each other. Exactly, yes. And to your grown-ups, and to people who are no longer here, and to our pets too. They go to our pets as well. So you all are invited to think about that as well. Let's sing our kids out to spiritual growth, and we will head out that door, or you're welcome to stay in the service as well.
Please join me for a moment of prayer or meditation. Today, we're gathered together, about 120 people here in this room and 41 households on Zoom. Spirit of life, source of love, spirit of mystery and wonder. These holiday seasons can be hard and full and joyous and stressful. However it was for us, we now mark a new beginning. We are in a new year with new possibilities, and we rest in the space between. We hold a mixture of uncertainty and trust, anxiety and faith, despair and hope. And we know that our agency is needed to bring about changes, both for ourselves and for our world. This morning, we pause for just a moment in stillness and in quiet as we process the year that we have just had and gather the strength needed for the year in store. Today, our community holds in light and love Jane Harper. Her mother passed away on December 14th at the wonderful age of 93. She died of complications from COVID. David Heath, as he recovers from medical complications that arose during his move to Massachusetts. Prayers for recovery and healing, and prayers of support to his wife Anne and their daughter Maggie as they continue to care for him. We also pray for all of those who are struggling with depression, addiction, financial hardship, or threats of violence. May we know peace and rest and wholeness and safety. For all that we do to make the world a better place, we remember that we need a planet to live on. In the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, 69 countries have pledged never to do anything to assist nuclear weapons. It's a great peace covenant and a plan to keep our planet green. Prayers of celebration. And now we take the time to speak out loud the names of those people we are holding in our hearts and in our minds. Knowing that together as a community, we are able to hold more than we can alone. May it be so, and make it so. Amen. Please stay seated for our hymn, Meditation on Breathing. We'll sing it through together a few different times. There's multiple parts. It's 1009 in the Teal hymnal if you need it. If you don't, just sing it along with me. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, breathe out, 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 breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
In this moment, we get the opportunity to practice gratitude and support in the form of the offering plate. The gifts collected today will go to support the mission of this congregation, to grow our souls and serve the world. There are a couple of ways that you can give today. You can use the text to give feature. The number is in your order of service. You can give on the website, or you can place cash or a check in the offertory basket. Thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life that we live together. The offering will now be gratefully collected.
For Grief by John O'Donohue. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you gets fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure, and some dead echo drags your voice down. Where words have no confidence, your heart has grown heavy with loss. And though this loss has wounded others too, no one knows what has been taken from you. When the silence of absence deepens, flickers of guilt kindle regret for all that was left unsaid or undone. There are days where you wake up happy, again inside the fullness of life, until the moment breaks and you are thrown back onto the black tide of loss. Days when you have your heart back, you're able to function well until the middle of work or an encounter. Suddenly, with no warning, you are ambushed by grief. It becomes hard to trust yourself. All you can depend on now is that sorrow will remain faithful to itself. More than you, it knows its way and will find the right time to pull and pull the rope of grief until that coiled hill of tears has reduced to its last drop. Gradually, you will learn acquaintance with the invisible form of your departed, and when the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal, and you will have learned to wean your eyes from that gap in the air and be able to enter the hearth in your soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time.
The service today is dedicated to the memory of beloveds who died in the past year, and we do this candle lighting ritual to name and honor the grief that we carry into this new year. And we do this ritual also to pledge ourselves to the practice of continuing to move into what it means to go on living without the beloveds that we lost.
In a moment, you will be invited to come up and light a candle, and we are going to come up this side, is going to come down this aisle. You will say the name of your beloved into the microphone and get a candle from Jack, light it, and then proceed up that way. And this side will come down this aisle and do the same. We will alternate sides, and there are little white circles you'll see in these beautiful candle boxes made by Jerry Yance and Kurt Proud. Thank you for all of your hard work for this gift to us. And at the end, if there's anybody who doesn't want to come up, one of us will bring a microphone to you and the other will light a candle. And those that are watching online, you're invited to name your beloveds who have died in the last year in the chat box. And Jack will read those at the end and we will light a candle for them.
This is our way of honoring these lives. We ask you to hold this space in silence, bearing witness to the griefs we carry. Jessica will begin.
Nate Lewis-Met.
Mark Kepke.
You are invited to come down the aisles now.
Corrine Donnelly and Christine.
William Ashwood.
Mark Bear.
Jim Iska.
Lori Green, Karen Dunnigan,
the Vang children, and Robert Belknap.
Scotty Walton.
Bernie Molidor,
Kathy Hartmans. Tom Galloway.
Larry Feldick, and the year before his mother, Anna Mae.
Bart and Leonard Oscar.
Jake, Angie, and Hal.
Jack Forrest Shelton,
Ed, Bob, and Gracie.
Jenny Butenhoff,
Larry Latecki.
Gary Beckman,
Cindy Barkai.
Grenville Smith and Rod Mendenhall.
Oscar Lund.
Grandpa Bill.
Kathy Brecky,
Wanda and Ed, Dorothy and Jack. Diana Garreau.
Dorothy Grolson Elfith,
Jay Sam.
Beverly Gale Tilbury Freitag.
Judith Barr.
Charmaine Chu.
Jenny Johansson,
My mother, Betty Marsh.
Jenny Johansson,
Pam Hesh, Kyle Cuddy, John Ellick, and Ginny Johansson.
For Dina and Avery Gentle, we light a candle for Rich Van Horn. For Kirsten Laxo, we light a candle for Anne-Marie Bjornson. For Marge Beauvais, we light a candle for Bob Beauvais. For Dina and Avery, we also light a candle for Cheryl Ward. For Isabella Listopad, we light a candle for Aunt Helen Fowler. For Dina and Avery, we light the candle for Sue Vanderschmidt and Dick Berhow. For Janelle, we light a candle for her son Jeremy, who passed suddenly a week ago, at the age of 34. For Isabella Listopad, we light a candle for Brian Elam and Brad Fowler. For Linda Shalander, we light a candle for George Knox. For Corwin Connell, we light a candle for Great Aunt Kathy. And for Kathy Cedro, we light a candle for John Knapstein and for Dee Smith.
And I'll light a candle for Louise Party. Is there anyone here who would like us to come to you and light a candle?
Ray Dotson.
Anyone else? Thank you for participating in this. We will light one more candle, Jack, if you would, for the names not spoken, for those whose lives are lost to war and violence, for those who we mourn. We give thanks for these lives which touched our own. Our theme this month is liberating love. It may seem strange to begin the year with a service so focused on grief, but the truth is we don't begin each year with a clean slate, right? Or with a heart unburdened by what it means to live in this world. We begin each year carrying in the heartbreak and the joy that accompanied our lives the year before. There is a saying, some of you might have heard this, that the size of our grief is the size of our love. But it's not that simple, right? Because grief can be complicated. A grief counselor once said to me that the hardest grief to carry is the one that you're carrying. Therefore, don't compare your grief to someone else's. Don't try to make it smaller in thinking that, oh, somebody else had it worse, so my heart shouldn't hurt this much. It's okay to feel as if your grief is hard to carry some days, or if you should be doing something differently with it. When I've had particularly hard deaths in my life, I became really focused on what it meant to grieve well. I wanted to do it right. A little inner strain of perfectionism, if anyone resonates. I wanted someone to tell me the right way to grieve. Someone to tell me that, oh, this is the way to get through this incredible amount of pain that I was experiencing. And not surprisingly, there is no one right way to grieve. In society, we still have trouble talking about and confronting death. It's ever present, yet when someone dies, we still don't quite know what to say. In seminary, which is the place where they teach you all the things to say, the mother of a friend of mine was dying, and I remember going over to her house and saying, "How are you?" And instantly in my head, I knew, you probably shouldn't have asked that or phrased it in a different way. It felt so awkward at the time. With death an ever-present part of life, what happens when someone is dying or with their loved ones as they pass is not a skill that's taught in schools. We all have our first experience with death to varying degrees of intensity, and we're forever changed by each life that interacts with our own and in the absence of them. And often it's that first experience that teaches us this is what grieving looks like. And depending on the family, that can mean not talking about it, right? We have, and so now as we grieve the people that we love and are connected to, we have a before, during, and after, and depending on the relationship, that after can last a long time. When someone beloved to us dies, we have an invitation to reinvent our lives, to figure out who we are without them, be it a partner, a best friend, or a child. A hole is left in our hearts in the shape of that person, and each day our task is to be tender with that vulnerable, aching space left behind, to be intentional about what we do with our grief. In Judaism, when someone dies, traditionally the clothing of the principal mourners is torn. Nowadays, sometimes a torn ribbon is worn. And this is to signify that the person is in mourning. It is a visible reminder of the grief that is carried. Additionally, for the first 12 months after someone dies, you are not supposed to ask the mourners, "How are you?" You allow them to grieve and just to be. This doesn't mean you can't inquire about their lives, but that forced, "How are you?" How do you respond? Terrible. All of that gets omitted, that forcing a response. Death brings up all of our baggage in ways that few other things do. We want to comfort the mourner and be with them, yet often the words coming out of our mouths are awkward at best and sometimes repeat harmful theology that somebody else told us. Things like, "They are in a better place," "Everything happens for a reason," or the ever-present question of, "Were you close?" All of these things take away from the impact of the death of loved ones. The truth is that death touches us all, and nothing that we say will make the grieving go faster, the pain less, or that heartache cease. And as we age, death becomes a part of life in ways that are hard to put into words, because living through your siblings, your friends dying, is a unique grief that accompanies the many losses of aging. When people close to me have died, I look for them everywhere, kind of like Tim shared in his chalice lighting from earlier. I want to see signs of them. I want to know that we're connected, because in those moments after loss, all I feel is the space that is missing them. So I read all the books. I have seen a grief counselor, and I've gone to support groups, and I tried all the things. One of those things that I tried was booking an appointment with a medium. Now, something you'll learn about me is I'm the type of person who has a healthy amount of skepticism and a healthy amount of I'll try anything. And when I was in this place of deep, deep grief, I wanted someone to tell me that myself and the person I was grieving were still connected. I didn't tell many people about this appointment because I was worried about people's judgment. And that session with the medium was so incredibly helpful to me. That doesn't mean that it's going to be for you or for any others in here, but for me, it was part of my healing process. So if there's one thing that you take away from this homily today, other than Reverend Jessica sees mediums, I want you to know that whatever your grief looks like, however it shows up, and whatever you choose to do with it, this is a place of non-judgment. Because for some too, grief can be accompanied by anger. Anger that the person died, especially if it was unexpected or a traumatic death. In addition to calling a medium, when I was experiencing angry grief, I went to a rage room. Has anyone heard about a rage room? So rage rooms are, I have to make the pun, all the rage. It was open, I had to take it, the door was open. So rage rooms are where you go and you pay these places to break things, that you get to break things. So you order your package, you reserve a time online, and you can reserve like a crate of ceramics, or sometimes you can reserve like a full office setup for maybe people with some workplace stress they want to let out. You can also like add on plates you can write on, and or just mixed glassware. And so I went to this rage room, and you also get to pick the music that you listen to. It's a very curated experience here. And I had long wanted to go, but this angry grief sent me there. And so I went with a friend, and they were like, what do you want to listen to? And I had gone into the center, and they were playing like some serious heavy metal. And so I said the complete opposite, kind of flippantly, just as a joke, Enya. And so I spent an hour with a dear friend listening to Enya while breaking plates with bats. I would not say that my grief was a gift, but it was something that I was learning to carry and to work with and to live with. In her book, The 5 Ways We Grieve, Susan Berger details the ways that people identify and process grief. These 5 ways are drawn from 10 years of research that was prompted by her reflections that if people do not grieve according to the pattern typified by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, how many of you are familiar with her stages of grief, right? If you're not going in that order, oftentimes people feel like they're doing it wrong. So she studied the process of grief and how people reinvent their lives from it. So these 5 types are as follows, and I invite you to hear them and see if you see yourself reflected in some of them. Number 1, the nomad. The nomad is someone who is adrift with their grief, someone who's still seeking a way to process the grief and reinvent themselves after the loss. Number 2 is the memorialist. This is someone who, according to Ms. Berger, creates rituals or concrete objects to remind them of their loved one. This helps them to feel connected and gives a physical reminder of that connection to their beloved. Number 3 are the normalizers. This type of processing is where one recreates their life from the loss, and they're acutely aware of the impermanence of life. For example, say a partner dies. The normalizers remain open to love and finds a partner to recreate that sense of stability, warmth, and love that they had with their previous partner. The 4th type is an activist. The activist takes the grief and fuels it towards making an impact upon the world and making it a better place. Whether they join or start a nonprofit dedicated to a cause close to the heart or related to the type of death, this type regains a sense of identity in activism. The 5th type is a seeker. According to Ms. Berger, the seekers experience their loss as a catalyst for philosophical inquiry into the meaning of life. They explore the range of human experience on this earth and the universe with all its mystery. They find comfort in belonging to groups with similar spiritual beliefs. She clarifies that we move from one type to the other depending on where we are in life, and we get to determine how we grieve and how we live. Some of you might be thinking right now, well, I identify with multiple types. That's totally me. But Ms. Berger says you tend to have one primary type, and you can fluctuate in and out of the others. And the point of identifying these is to give greater insight into the grief process for validation and for connection. So much of mourning and loss is isolating, and our task as Unitarian Universalists is to come together to be with each other in the midst of all of this. So to go back to that harmful theology that I mentioned earlier, I do not believe that everything happens for a reason, but I do believe that we can choose to make meaning from everything that happens. And sometimes the meaning that we make is, this makes no sense. From the great griefs in life, we can intentionally choose how we process that grief, how it changes us, and how we continue to find and make meaning. This work is the task of each person that lives each day, and we are all doing it, but we're not doing it alone. We are doing it together in community. As we come to this place and cry and breathe and just be. I mean, after all, how many places can you enter and spend an hour crying? Therapist's office and church. You are welcome here, however your grief manifests, however close you were to that person, and with whichever identity you claim in the face of loss. You are welcome here, however you choose to move through your grief. May you know that this community will help bear witness. This is where liberating love comes in. This community bearing witness to each other, facing what it means to move through this world with a heart that is broken and whole together. We are loving each other into being. Whether the fabric of your clothing is torn, whether you have been a nomad for 15 years, you are welcome here. We will not tell you how to grieve, but we will acknowledge that grief is as present in life as breathing. Come into this place in the fullness of who you are, and know you need not journey alone. And when you leave, and you are a nomad, a seeker, a normalizer, an activist, or memorialist, know that we are all in this together, journeying along, privileged to be witness to each other's grieving, processing, and choosing life each day. Amen. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn in the gray hymnal, number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. We will be singing verses 1 and 3, and remain risen for our benediction. Our hymn ended with, "And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow. We have the gift to believe that peace within our living and loving is an answer." May you feel that deep belonging in this place and take it with you out into the world, dear ones. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated for our postlude and join us in our social hall for coffee hour.